Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 125. This is the last episode of Super Podcast Action Committee for the year.
Yes.
Any hard skip a beat there? Yeah, because of the holidays, all of our schedules are out of whack, so we're taking the rest of the year off. When will we be back? We will be back, let me see. I think January 10th will be our show back. I will be out the 3rd of January, so unless Zachary and someone else wants to do a show, Super Podcast Action Committee will come back January 10th.
All right.
But in the meantime, hello Zachary, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. I've got some vacation shenanigans to do shortly. I'm, getting my flights arranged, making sure they don't renovate my apartment this month while I'm gone, which they were supposed to do last month, but they didn't, and now it's supposed to be January or possibly February. Arg. Got to get a ride to the airport. Got to pack. Got to make sure I balance my food so that I run out of all the food in my fridge exactly the right time so I don't have to throw away large quantities of food before I leave. I'm trying to get a YouTube video done. So lots of stuff keeping me busy. Yeah. Haven't played many video games, although I did play more of Wonderful 101. Which,
figured it out yet?
Yes. And whoever in the chat last week said that the game does not... You need to buy a couple moves that the game should have started you with by default was totally right. So if you have not played Wonderful 101, play the game a little bit, earn a few coins or monies or whatever the monetary system in the game is, and buy the block move. I think it's called Unite Guts.
Unite Guts.
This game is really not designed to be played without it. And after you get the block move, get the dodge move. After that, the game plays great. Once you figure out how to fight and you've got block and dodge, no problem. If you didn't see last week's show, I tried the game like half an hour before the podcast started, and I said, man, this thing's got a difficulty curve like a vertical wall. Yeah. And I didn't realize that the game really expects you to, go buy this move that you really do need to get through the game. You're really not going to get through this game without these moves. I mean, it's kind of like if... in the original Super Mario Brothers, after collecting enough coins, you had to go into a menu and buy jump. Or maybe a better example would be run. Yeah, you can make it through maybe the first couple of worlds of Super Mario Brothers without, holding down the B button, but you're probably not going to beat the game. I don't think it's possible to beat that game without running at some point.
Yeah. The later levels, you really need to be able to run in order to beat that clock. Because there's no clock if you can't run.
I think there's a few gaps in the floor that take a running jump to go.
Yeah, that too. Shoot, I think... Are there a couple of jumps in even World 1-2 that require a speed jump?
I'm trying to think. I think World 1-2 you could actually get through with just a normal walking jump. I'd have to fire up the game and try it, but... Because some of the biggest pits I can think of have those moving platforms that go up and down, so... Yeah. I don't think there's anything too far. But, let's see. Yeah, that's all I've played this week. I've been kind of debating on whether to buy Gone Home for $5. Because I've been interested in the game. I've heard a lot of good things about it.
I picked it up in a humble bundle. I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Yeah. But we had Susan Arndt on the show a while back, and we were talking to her about it, and I said, I'm interested in the game, but I'm not quite $20 interested. And she says, yeah, while I love the game, I wouldn't recommend it for $20 either. So, but Wonderful, anyway, back to Wonderful 101, I'm really I've only gotten through the first 2 worlds, each mission I think is divvied up into 3 different stages, so I'm through the first 2 major missions, out of 8, 9, something. and I'm really enjoying the game. The fighting is not really grabbing me, but how just damn goofy that game is really appealing to me. I mean, it's like Power Rangers or crossed with Voltron, crossed with Sailor
Hmm.
Moon, crossed with a bunch of just obnoxious anime stuff. And it's really genuinely very funny in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Because you have this, giant I mean, a lot of pratfall type of humor, too.
Yeah.
Um, and some fourth wall stuff, like, the characters will jump in the air, and the game will pause, and the narrator, the wonderful 101. They are the world's best fighters, and they keep the world safe from alien scum, la-di-da-di-da. And they're hanging in the air, and they start getting bored and looking around, and one of them actually, like, falls out of the air because he just can't hold it up any longer. Just silly stuff like that. And
Nice.
I enjoy that type of humor. So
That's good.
Matthew, I think, is describing Gone Home as the walking simulator. I wonder if that's
Well,
more or less a walking simulator as Dear Esther.
well, I think with Gone Home, you're kind of confined to a single house, though.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you, but I think you might be confined to the interior of the house. So it's kind of like a, I would probably describe
So
it
it's like Resident Evil, right?
Well, I
It's
don't know.
exactly like Resident Evil.
I guess. But no zombies are hunting you. You're at home alone. You just came back from a European trip or college, from college or something, and everybody, your parents are not there. It's like your family moved to a new house, so you're at this house that you've never been in before. Stuff is still half packed away, and so you're kind of exploring it, figuring out what's going on with your family because they're not there to talk to you about it.
So there's no note on the fridge saying "went out for pizza. We'll be back in 20." That would be really anticlimactic if that was the case. You have to find the
the minutia of it, but that's just the general idea of the game. Is that you're exploring this house that your parents just moved to, trying to figure out what's going on because in the game something something big has been going on with your family. I'm well aware of the spoiler for it, but if anybody out there hasn't played the game and
I don't think
doesn't
I
know
am,
the spoilers, so
so
I won't spoil the game for you.
I'm guessing it's not they all went out for pizza. Or you got the address wrong and you just broke into somebody's house who happens to be on vacation. I was like, I wonder why I don't recognize any of the people in the pictures. Matthew also suggested that I've never played a Platinum game before. They're hard as nails. I have played Platinum games before, and they are typically very difficult. Wonderful 101, I'm not really far enough in the game for it to be super ass-kickingly difficult. But if you don't know you're really supposed to buy a move that allows you to block, it is not very fun to play. I mean, I was actually making progress because I just had to get good at fighting, but fights were taking forever because the block move is used to defeat enemies. Like it shoots an iron ball, cannonball thing at you, and you do the block move, which absorbs the cannonball and fires it back at them. You kind of need to, if you don't do that, the fight will take like 8 minutes.
Well, I'm sure there are no purchased move runs on YouTube and stuff. It's like only default.
It probably can be done, but it's really apparent that that's not the way the game is meant to be played. Because there's a lot of attacks that don't look like you can avoid without actually using the dodge move, which is something you have to purchase first.
Yeah.
Which I've always found that kind of weird, that a game locks away things that you really need and doesn't tell you that these are things you need. I mean, I was aware that there was a shop and moves to buy, but for instance, the block move I believe is called Unite Guts, and it doesn't actually tell you what the hell that is until you hit the purchase button, which luckily just takes you to the shopping cart screen, and then it tells you what that is. I'm like, oh, it's a block move. I need me one of those. So Yeah, so when I first went into the Wonder Mart or Mini Mart or whatever it's called, it's like unite guts, unite salad, unite fork, unite. I don't. I'm hungry. Um, I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is, so I don't know. I don't want to hit purchase because I don't know what it is. So I just went back to the game, and then we did the podcast and said, yeah, you need to buy a few moves first. And so I went, oh, let's try this. Oh, I didn't automatically buy it. Purchase
Yeah.
means tell you what it is before you buy it. So anyway, once you get the block and dodge move, once you've got that, the game unless it starts sucking somewhere in mission 3 and beyond, I'm really enjoying the game.
That's
Unfortunately, probably not going to have a chance to play it this weekend because I'm busy doing
yeah.
some other stuff. But you play anything this week?
Um, no, this week has been kind of hectic for me. I have played a lot more Angry Birds Epic.
Mm.
The game has actually, I'm really surprised. Rovio, they make pretty solid games, like, and I was just, but I hadn't until this game, I hadn't played anything of theirs that wasn't just an Angry Bird style, slingshot game. Um, like all the other games I played were just the slingshot ones, and so that's kind of what I was expecting when I got Angry Birds Epic, but then it turned out to be an actual RPG, and it's a very solid RPG. There's a lot of crap in there that is designed in a way to kind of force you to pay real money to get gold, but the prices to get the gold are pretty outrageous. To even get enough gold to do anything useful, it's like $8, and you'll be able to buy like one thing with it. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not going to be buying gold anytime soon in this game. But the birds have three basic moves. You've got you drag the bird onto an enemy to execute an attack, and then you can drag the bird onto or just tap it. Tap that bird. Drag the bird onto another bird, or just tap it to activate a defensive style move. And then they've got this little rage chili thing that as you attack enemies, as you attack pigs and pigs attack you, your rage chili fills up, and then when that fills up completely, you can drag it onto one of your birds and they'll do a special move, kind of like limit breaks in Final Fantasy VII type thing, and each bird can get 5 different classes. So they're all based around the same concept. Like the red bird is all like knight and samurai and stuff like that, and then like the white bird is your cleric style bird. You can get various druid and princess and things. And they all have something to do with healing or protection. And then and all of them are really they're all really clever character classes, and the game is designed as well so that you have to carefully pick the actual birds that you use in battle, and often the classes you use in battle too, in order to make the battle easier. So like when you're getting ready to go in battle and you're picking your birds, there's this little dial that shows you how difficult the battle will be based on your selected birds. And so, the goal is to get it more into the green, if as close to the green as you can, to make the battle go easier. And so that's a very clever design too. But yeah, I'm in the last area of the game. So once I'm actually able to beat these last few battles, I'll probably be done with the game in a week. But other than that, I finally got to watch Guardians of the Galaxy this week. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's on the theater.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get the chance to go watch it in a theater, but it came out on DVD on Tuesday. So my wife and I we went ahead and bought it and watched it. And, it is a great movie. Even if it wasn't a Marvel movie, it would be a great space opera movie. I loved it. But yesterday we let our kids watch it, and because it was good enough, not too much stuff in there we didn't want them to see, and so we went ahead and let our kids watch it. And there's a scene in it after they kind of form their group, where Star-Lord is showing Gamora his Walkman, showing her what it is. He lets her listen to it, and and there's kind of alluding to a romantic connection there, and Star-Lord starts moving in for a kiss, and then just before they kiss, Gamora pulls out her knife and puts it up against his throat and starts yelling at him. And then she says that she says this line where it's like, "I'm well aware of your reputation, Peter, and I'm not going to fall for your pelvic sorcery." And my wife and I, we both laughed at the line because it's a funny line, and Zoe Saldana says it just right, to pull it off, and so we would laugh at it. And my son, he's 10 years old, and so he's picking up on a lot of things, and he looks at us and he's like, "What is pelvic sorcery?" And my wife and I, we started laughing even harder when he asked that, but we had to explain it to him because he wanted to know what pelvic sorcery was, and so we're like, she looked at me and she says, "That's your job." So,
your turn, honey. You explain this one.
Yeah, exactly. And so
let me get the camera first. I'm going to put this on YouTube.
Yeah. But so I explained it as simply as I could. I was like, it's kind of like charm, where you make somebody think that you're in love with them in order to get something out of them, and he was happy with that explanation. So I didn't have to go any deeper into it than that. But that just kind of took us by surprise, that he asked about that. But he's at that age where he picks up on things like that. So
yeah, I asked my mom what her policy for explaining things to us kids was when we were growing up, and she says, "I would answer any question you had honestly until you were satisfied."
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how she worked things, and it's like, where do babies come from? From moms. Oh, didn't need to go into the plumbing. If you're satisfied with that we'll cross another bridge when you want to get there. There was an interesting phrasing of that metaphor. Let's see. RK Fan asks, do we have any thoughts worth sharing on Sonic Boom or the Sonic series as a whole? Worth sharing, no, but I'm sure we have thoughts on it.
Yeah, the Sonic series. To be honest, I don't play much Sonic at all.
I'm not a fan of Sonic. I never have been. A lot of people, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but a lot of people say, "Oh, Sonic used to be good, and it sucks since '06 at least." And I'm like, you know what? To me, Sonic was never good. And this wasn't a Nintendo versus Genesis fanboy type of thing. This was just like, yeah, well, we've got Sonic. I'm like, you can have him. He sucks. The game is terrible. I mean, as an actual platformer, the original Sonic games were like, it wants to go roller coaster fast, but the level design prevents you from doing that. It wants to be like a accurate, methodical platformer. It sucks as a platformer, and it doesn't let you go fast. It's a terrible game. Some of the Matthew says someone needs to take Sonic out back and put him out of his suffering, and I think that's kind of what Sega's been trying with each successive game. But people keep buying it.
Yeah.
Although RK Fan says Generations was okay, and I know a lot of people liked Sonic Colors, but Sonic Boom was apparently an unmitigated disaster.
Well, they changed the aesthetic of Sonic and all his friends, and then it was released with a, and then they released it, and it was pretty buggy, and not the best design either.
At this point, you almost wonder if Sega's like, how far can we push this before the fans actually revolt?
Yeah,
We
I
tried the
really,
werehog. We tried the romance with the human.
we
We
tried the sword fighting.
sword fighting. Like, you guys keep buying this, no matter how crappy we make the games. You keep buying it.
Yeah.
We introduced a game with crappy design, crappy banter, and bugs, and you guys still bought it.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of good things about Sonic and Knuckles, and I have Sonic 3, but I don't have the Knuckles extension, so I've never played the Sonic and Knuckles combo.
I
Um,
gave up on Sonic long before that game came out. So,
yeah.
oh, I also heard that Sonic 4, the direct sequel that was a download. I heard that one was okay,
Yeah.
especially if you
Um,
like the original games.
it's episodic,
And
and
they didn't do any other episodes, did they?
well, there was at least two, because I know there's at least two Sonic 4s on the Ouya. I did download one of them, but I deleted it when I needed room for other things because I hadn't been playing it. Um, but yeah, there's at least two episodes. There might be three. I don't remember. Um, but yeah, I'm just Sonic is just I'm on board with you. It's just it's not one of my favorite platforms.
Yeah.
Um,
Nesper says
I've
Sonic
never been
fan
all that.
communities are always revolting.
But yeah, it's just not one of my favorite platformers, and to be honest, I'm not huge into just straight up platformers. I'm not even a major fan of Mario. I like the new Super Mario games, just because they're fun to play with my family because we can have four of us on screen at once. But just like Mario, the Super Mario Brothers on NES and Super NES. I'm not a big fan of it. I beat Super Mario World, but I've never beat any of the NES ones.
Hmm.
But
Not even the first one?
No, well, with the Game Genie I did. But I do like the Wario games.
I hate
the
84.
Wario platformers. I enjoyed those. I do take that back. I have beaten Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy, and and that one I enjoyed that one. That one was a good one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Matthew says he likes Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transform. Clunky title, but I played the demo on the Wii U, and yeah, it's a solid game if you like racers, which I don't. But even someone like me who is so not into racing games that he doesn't even enjoy Mario Kart, I could still play Sonic and Sega Racing Transformed All-Star, whatever it's called, and go, this is a good game.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna play it.
So is it basically a Mario Kart? Or is it something different?
Yes. Really, yeah, it's pretty much Mario Kart. Mario Maker. You familiar with this title?
Yes.
It's basically Mario Paint, only a Super
a
Mario
level
Brothers
editor,
level designer, right?
Yeah.
Two new themes were announced. You can make a level and you can make it look like the original Super Mario Brothers, or you can make a level and you can switch the theme. It'll be New Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Now we know that it can also have Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World themes. So I went on Twitter earlier in the week and said I would like to see, as mechanically improbable as it would be, because there would have to be a lot of changes, I'd like to see a Super Mario Brothers 2 theme. Unfortunately, the game plays so radically different from the rest of the 2D side-scrolling Mario games that they'd probably have to lock a lot of the features to that theme. But looking at the footage we saw, we could see that there was wall jumping in the new Super Mario Brothers theme. So, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I'd also like to see Paper Mario theme. Someone suggested a Yoshi's Island, which is that crayon-looking.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
I could go with the Yoshi's
And I
Island.
think maybe even a Mario Land theme, a Game Boy aesthetic.
Yeah, like pure, 4 colors. That would be cool. Yeah. I would probably pick Super Mario Land 2 over Super Mario Land 1, just because Super Mario Land 1 is a little more retro and pixely and so I think having the Super Mario Brothers 1 as a theme would probably satisfy that niche. But Super Mario Land 2 looks really good, and even in 4 colors, and I think that would make the better theme of the two.
Yeah, well, Super Mario Land, the first one, kind of controlled weird and looked a little weird. It was ghosty, and the fireball looked like a rubber ball.
Yeah.
And the platforms were all that. It was a fun game. I enjoyed it back in the day on the big brick of a Game Boy, but it did look off.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they do with it. I don't know if I would get Mario Maker. I admire what it is, but I'm not much for making my own levels. I desire the developers to make the damn levels themselves.
If Nintendo has, I don't know if they've announced this at all or not, but if they have a market of some sort where you could upload your levels and let other people download it, I think that would make it a lot more interesting and fun.
They haven't announced that, but they have to have something.
Yeah, they have to have something like that, because just keeping it all local, it's not going to be all that fun. How are you going to, you're going to have to drag people to your house or take your Wii U to their house, to show people. It'd be much better to just upload them and say, hey, come download my level. It plays like crap, but it's my level.
Of course, and back in my day, when I had Mario Paint, which I didn't have it, I think I rented it from Blockbuster, you could save one thing. One!
Yeah.
One art thing, one music thing, and one animation thing, and one whatever the other one was, and you could combine them together. But if you want to make something else, you hit the trash can and you erase the entire thing.
Yeah, Matthew says you can share your levels, but not at launch. So.
I don't think that's been announced, but I would not be surprised if this thing launched without the ability to share levels.
Yeah. But I do remember Mario Paint. Man, that fly swatting game was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. I used to spend a lot of time playing that. I played that more than I did any of the other stuff.
Well, it was the only real game aspect. I spent a lot of time really rearranging, the Zelda March and the Mario theme in the little Mario Paint music creator. I guess that was my burgeoning days as a musical arranger. Yeah, that was, come to think of it, that's probably the first actual arranging I ever did. I got my start in Mario Paint. Look at that. Let's see, what else do I want to ask before we move on with the show? Did we argue about the lightsaber crossguard and the Star Wars trailer?
I don't remember if we talked about that or not.
Well, let's talk about that, because that's fun. For those of you who saw the Star Wars trailer for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, there's a new lightsaber that looks kind of like a broadsword or a claymore or something. It has a crossguard on it, but the crossguard is made of little mini lightsabers. And some people are saying that's stupid, and they're right. It is stupid, but in some ways, a laser sword is kind of dumb, but it is kind of cool in a way. My problem with it, do I have a problem with it? I don't hate the movie because of it. It doesn't do what I would assume a crossguard is supposed to do, and that's to keep your fingers from being cut off when your opponent's blade slides down yours and into the hilt. Now, the problem here is that unless the lightsaber itself is made out of some lightsaber-proof material, which does exist in the Star Wars universe, however, we've seen lightsabers get chopped in half before, so it doesn't seem like they usually are. In the trailer, you have the lightsaber, and you have these little emitters on each side which spit out the crossguard piece.
Mm-hmm.
So if your enemy's blade was coming down yours, it would ignore the actual laser and go straight through the emitter and then right into your fingers.
Yeah. Yeah. This is we actually had a very long discussion about this in the chat box shortly after the trailer release.
Oh, the Game Politics Shoutbox.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know, we there was a lot of discussion about the various lightsaber-proof materials that are available in the Star Wars universe, and so the potential is that those are made out of that. But one of the but about the whole sliding down your blade is that I'm not sure that lightsabers are capable of sliding past each other, like sliding down each other.
Think they're kind of sticky or frictiony.
Yeah, it's like from what I don't recall ever any lightsaber duel where they've done anything except type thing.
They do tend to hack at each other a lot.
Yeah, it's all hack moves and and parrying and stuff and from just memory, I don't have the movies, so I couldn't just go through and look at all the fight scenes. I don't think the blades have ever actually slid down each other, and so in the shout box, somebody mentioned the fact that when the lightsabers hit each other, the plasma beams they kind of merge with each other, and so you have to pull away. There's not any way to.
I hate it when my Schwartz gets twisted.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. There's the potential for.
If that's how it works, then a crossguard is kind of pointless.
Yeah, but the other concept, Stephen Colbert brought this up. Like he did a whole a segment on this, and he drew a little diagram where it's not a lightsaber emitter here and then two lightsaber emitters here. It's those are just kind of there to protect the hand of the wielder. Where it's actually a single blade just kind of split into three, and so it's like kind of you have the one focusing crystal here, and then you have two that kind of spit it out to the sides. And so like even if a lightsaber were to hit those emitters, the cross guard or whatever, it's still going to hit a lightsaber inside. So you're going to damage the crossbar, but you're not going to get through the little lightsaber blades on the inside. So that was Stephen Colbert's.
Lightsaber is built differently than I believe lightsaber, or at least the fan fiction builds out lightsabers. Because as far as I remember, the focusing crystal's a lot closer to the end than that. I mean, this one would have to have the focusing crystal damn near the middle, or if not further back, reflecting the beam all the way out, and then have some type of little mirrors on the inside splitting parts of that beam out into the side. Which maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and the other theory going about is that the person who created this lightsaber didn't create it right, like used bad crystals or whatever. So there's a lot of
the blade does look a little uneven, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A little wavy.
So, yeah, and so it wasn't the crystal and the mirrors and everything, they're not focusing the blade right, and so there's a lot of residue energy near the crystals, and so those emitters are designed to kind of push the exhaust out away from the blade, the handle and everything. So so they're not really there to do anything other than protect the lightsaber from overheating and melting.
A buddy of mine in college and I hypothetically built a lightsaber. We tried to design how could we actually design something that would be something like a lightsaber, and We couldn't get it portable. It would need a really large powering. You'd have to drag this humongous battery thing around. We also couldn't figure out a way to get some type of lighter plasma blade to come out and then stop. We could only figure a way to focus it so that it kind of dissipated by a certain point. And we got it so that it would pass through really any material. But the problem was that we ran into is like you can't fight with this thing because the blades would pass through each other.
Yeah.
Or possibly explode. We really weren't sure which. We weren't sure if the blades would just pass through each other or explode. But that was a fun waste of time.
A lot of and there's the power source thing. Considering you have blasters in the Star Wars universe that the size of a normal handgun, and you can fire off hundreds of shots with these things without needing to recharge the battery. The power problem is solved in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And then for the actual blade, the official explanation is it's not actually a beam of light. It is a blade-shaped force field full of super hot plasma. And so when the blades when the blade hits something, the force field kind of goes around whatever it is they're hitting, and the plasma is what cuts through, and so the force field just kind of reforms once it goes all the way through. And then when the two blades hit, when two lightsabers hit each other, that force field just kind of fuses together. As long as they're
which is why I can't really slide the blade up and down easily.
But yeah,
on the other hand, it's called a light.
Exactly.
Marketing was like, well, yeah, it's inaccurate, but it's more catchy.
Well, the plasma force field explanation didn't come out until like
years
sometime long after the movies came out. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole design of the crystal or the gem thing, that whole thing is built by the fans and stuff. So, whatever, lightsabers.
The
cool.
extended universe.
Yeah. Which LucasArts or Disney or whoever chucked most of. So the last thing I wanted to ask before we start the show, before we need to end it, was with all the Sony, one of the most interesting to me, because I'm a fanboy of this, that came out of the Sony hacks, was the idea that Sony and Nintendo might be collaborating on a Mario Brothers movie.
Yeah, and it's going to be an animated movie, because I saw that this past weekend, and I thought that was kind of funny, because we all know what happened the last time Sony and Nintendo collaborated on something. It resulted in Sony making a video game console and kicking Nintendo's butt. But I don't think...
Yeah, because the N64 was far superior to the PlayStation.
Yeah, just expensive to develop for. But
it had its cons.
But yeah, I think that would it's kind of funny that Sony would be the studio to make a Mario Brothers movie, if any studio picked it up.
I can't imagine that. I have a hard time imagining that Nintendo would even go so far as to allow Sony to distribute the movie, let alone give them any sort of creative control over that property.
I don't see why Nintendo would have a problem, because Sony Pictures and the video game division are pretty well separated from each other, at least to the point where they have no creative control over each other's content. The hardware, on the other hand, is
that's true. Sony Pictures and Sony Entertainment are two really different companies. So.
Yeah, they're basically two companies with one parent umbrella company. But yeah, I don't see why Nintendo would have a problem. But yeah, it just seems weird that they didn't go with somebody like Disney or Warner Brothers, for a movie like this, because they're not a company in direct competition hardware wise. There's really no getting away from a company that's competing game wise, because every movie studio is owned by somebody that owns a game studio as well.
We've had 3 Pikmin short films, and I've not seen them because I'm too cheap to buy them, but I hear they're very charming. Matthew says he'd rather have Zelda, Metroid, or Star Fox. Metroid, yeah. Zelda, Metroid, or a Star Fox movie. So, what do you think? If you could have a movie out of any of the Nintendo franchises, and chat, feel free to chime in, what would you want? Would you want a Mario movie, Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox, Kirby, Pokemon? Well, we've had a lot of Pokemon movies, but...
yeah, Pokemon's been their big entertainment...
well, as far as I know, Nintendo has nothing to do with the Pokemon movies.
Other than raking in royalties.
Well, I'm sure they make money off them, but that's mostly the Pokemon group, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of any one of those franchises that I would consider movie material, because I tend to like them better as games. As much fun as the Super Mario Brothers show was, and all the various other Nintendo cartoons that they had a while back, back in the 80s and early 90s. I've always enjoyed the games better.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I guess you could probably do a Star Fox or a Metroid game movie as kind of Guardians of the Galaxy is basically brought back the space opera. So trying to do something with those franchises as a space opera would probably be pretty cool. Metroid done in a similar way to Pitch Black might be something that could work as well. Alien and Pitch Black, all those things. But there's just be kind of hard to not have those overtones of, oh, they're just ripping off Alien, or oh, they're just ripping off Pitch Black for the Metroid movie.
A Metroid movie I almost see as kind of similar in structure as like the Road Warrior, way old Mad Max Road Warrior movie, where you just have a guy, well, in this case a gal, but someone essentially just kind of minding their own business and then ending up in this big problem and then takes care of business. Because Max was not one to say much. How many lines does he have in the original movie? Like 4 or something like that? I don't know if he says anything. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. But another Escape from New York is another one that kind of entered into my mind. But yeah. Metroid,
Escape from
directed by John Carpenter.
An Escape from New York style movie with starring Samus would be kind of cool, instead of entering New York, she'd be going to some planet,
Zebes or wherever,
hostile planet. But I guess that could work. The problem with a Metroid movie, though, is that the Metroid games are, other than Other M, are typically Samus alone. It's just there's not really interactions with other characters other than like Metroid Prime series. Actually, Metroid Prime 2 is the one that comes to mind that has a lot of interactions with other characters. Well, not as many. I think Metroid Prime 3 had
3 is the one
way
that
more interaction, because that has all the hunters and stuff. And Metroid Prime 2 dealt with the
Dark Samus.
Well, the alien race that inhabited the planet before
Chozo?
Chozo, yeah, I think something like that. So it's like I'm sure it could be done, but I don't know. I just don't know if I could ever picture one being done well. Video game movies tend to not be very very good.
Well, the problem is you can't is that most video games you can't directly adapt to a movie because video games and movies have different goals.
Yeah.
So if you're going to adapt a game, you really have to adapt. I think a lot of the reasons these projects fail so often are just fun but not very good is because you're not adapting it to a film. I mean, it's kind of like when you see comic books based on the movie and they suck. It's because they're not using the format. They're just kind of trying to pull the movie into a comic book, and you can't do that. It's a different medium. You have to adapt it too.
Yeah.
Mixless Double G says Mario is fine, but it needs to have the flood. I don't know if you mean from Halo or the talking water backpack from Sunshine. I like both ideas, actually.
Yeah.
Mario versus the flood.
Yeah. But just is the Mario Brothers movie the only Nintendo branded movie that has been made? I can't think.
Other than Pokemon movies, to an extent, I believe so.
Yeah. And
the rest of them would be the Pikmin short films and a
Yeah.
bunch of the cartoons.
Yeah, but I think if that original Mario Brothers movie didn't have the Mario Brothers name on it, it wasn't, the characters weren't Mario and Luigi and and all of that, I think it probably would have passed as a cult classic style, B movie of the '80s, but or the '90s or whatever it was released, but. I think it gets maligned most because it deviated so far from the actual Mario franchise as contained within the games. That's what people found at issue. But the movie itself, it's just a cheesy, fun movie.
Yeah.
All the Mario stuff.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Like, what this Mario movie needs? Sentient fungus. Were you on mushrooms when you wrote this script? Matthew says, points out The Wizard, which is not really a movie based on a video game, but it's certainly a video game movie, and it's more of a commercial for stuff. But
it's a Mario Brothers 3 commercial and a Power Glove commercial.
It's so bad. And Lucas speaks the truth because the Power Glove really was bad, but not in the good sense. It just sucked. It did kind of look cool, though.
But apparently it was the only way you could actually land your plane in Top Gun. So, and you just had to hold it still. There was no moving it or anything, no touching buttons. You just held your hand out in front of you, and you landed.
I'm trying to remember what game it was. I think it was one of the Mario Sonic Olympic games. I was at IGN a couple of years ago, and Jack DeVries was, when he worked there, he was actually reviewing the Mario and Sonic at the Winter Olympics game. And he was playing the hockey tournament thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just kind of sitting there like this. And he says, I just set the controller down and I'm winning. It's 25-1. It's 25-1. I'm you don't even have to play it.
Well, there was a thing going around where one of the Mario Party games was if you just kind of left, didn't touch your controller during any of the mini games, you almost always won. The whole thing was around Luigi, so I don't know if Luigi is required for that, but there was one Mario Party game where if you didn't do anything and you're playing 3 AI characters, you would win almost every mini game.
There's another game. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not Just Dance. I think it's one of the Just Dance knockoff games. But someone took the Wii remote and just set it down and got like 98%. Wasn't even holding the remote.
Nice.
So anyway, since we have to stop the show in a couple of minutes, let's start the show. Oh man, we are awful.
Yes, we.
Let's look at last week's poll, which was not very popular. We only had 97 people vote. I was a little late on the poll, which asks, will Street Fighter V show up on any console other than the PlayStation 4? Currently, it is exclusive to arcade, and then apparently will come to the PS4 and console.
PC.
I'm sorry, PS4 and PC. I was originally going to have a poll that asked about the console exclusivity of Street Fighter V and Rise of the Tomb Raider, the new Tomb Raider game, because that came out a week ago that it would be exclusive to Microsoft was publishing it, so it would be exclusive to Microsoft's consoles and PC. Then the very next day, it came out that the exclusivity is for a duration, so it almost certainly Square Enix will probably take over publishing duties and bring it to, well, Sony's console. I seriously doubt it will end up on Nintendo's console because they're mean. They don't like me. They're doing this just to spite me, I tell you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I asked, will Street Fighter V show up on any console other than the PS4? 34% said yep. 38% said no, but subsequent versions will, like Super Street Fighter V or Street Fighter V Turbo or Championship Edition or so on and so forth. 18% said nope, PS4 only, and 10% said only Sony consoles, so PS4, PS3, Vita. So, what do you think, Zachary?
Golly, I can't even remember what I voted on this. I think I either voted yep or subsequent versions will. Because I don't see Capcom being very happy with just Sony's consoles, because they're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table by not taking it to the Xbox One, and potentially the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and and they're going to be leaving some money on the table because they're probably most likely 100% likely going to ignore the Wii U.
To be fair, I wouldn't buy it, but
yeah. Well, they might do Street Fighter V Retro Edition and put that on there and have like 3 characters and
they put Link in Street Fighter V. It worked for Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah, they'll have half the characters. The graphics will be dumbed down to Street Fighter 4's graphics, which I guess they would probably have to be since Street Fighter 4 was a PS3 360 generation game. Maybe go a little bit lower because I remember when the Wii was out, if a game was ported over, it wasn't ported over to PS2 era graphics, but more like PS1 era graphics. But yeah, I don't see them being happy with leaving so much money on the table by ignoring that. So
yeah,
they will either.
Both Street Fighter and Tomb Raider are too large of franchises to. Now you can get away with this with something like Bayonetta, which, while popular, was still kind of cult or niche. But something like Street Fighter or Tomb Raider, you've got to hit all the platforms.
Yeah,
except the Wii U, because we Nintendo guys don't buy anything other than Nintendo games. Pout.
Yeah.
My pouting face. I'm pouting.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to happen. Maybe not this first release, but yeah, probably a second. There's subsequent versions.
Maybe Capcom would be doing better if they hated Mega Man a little less.
Yes. I want another Mega Man game, and I want another Breath of Fire game, and to be honest, those are the only 2 Capcom franchises that I actually care about. But if it's a Mega Man game, it's got to be a Mega Man X game, because as much fun as the NES Mega Mans were, I liked X. It came out on the SNES.
Really? I'm more of a fan of the originals, but yeah, I like X just fine. It's kind of a different game.
Yeah,
But
it's it plays very differently, but yeah, I tend to like the X series better,
hmm.
and
X is
I've
so
never played.
moody though,
Yeah, true, but I've never played Legends, and so you know
and we'll never play Legends 3.
yeah, well, nobody will ever play Legends 3. But yeah, Mighty Number 9, Matthew mentions that, and that's definitely on my to buy list because it looks very much like a Mega Man X game, so I'll probably enjoy it. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I would like to see a Mega Man game, and it's I'm not a big fan of first-person shooters, but it could be done very well as a first-person shooter. Metroid Prime pulled it off. I'm sure Capcom could pull it off too if they wanted to try.
Hmm.
But,
Retro Studios making a Mega Man game. That's an interesting thought.
yeah,
Although, like I mentioned last week, I'd really, I love Retro Studios. I love what they've done so far, but I'd really just like to just say, retro kids, just make what you want. Make your dream game. You
yeah,
know, let's see you do something original. They had a bunch of original projects like 10 some odd years ago, but they had an RPG and a racing game and a bunch of other stuff, and it all got scrapped because there was a big corporate reshuffling going on at the time. But
yeah.
can't argue with the results because we got the Prime games and the Donkey Kong Country Returns games, all of which are awesome. So
Mhm. Yes, definitely.
Matthew thinks Capcom will not make it through this gen. Well, yeah, they have so many properties that do work though. I mean, Monster
Yeah,
Hunter is still
Dragon's Dogma
popular in
does pretty
Japan at
well.
least.
The Resident Evil games still do
Resident
pretty
Evil,
well.
although
Um,
they're shunning Nintendo,
yeah.
which
Um,
Capcom,
what other franchises do they have? Trying to
Devil May
think.
Cry.
Devil May Cry. They did that DMC.
I liked DMC. Damn it! I
Um,
thought it was cool.
yeah, and but
Yeah, the character's design was a little weird, but the game was actually fun. And
uh,
I love the dynamically morphing environments. That was really
yeah,
really cool.
and as from what I'm aware, Dragon's Dogma did fairly well when going up against all the other um, fantasy RPGs.
Another
But
game I would have liked to try.
yeah. But I don't think it did as well as they hoped, but it did well enough that it wasn't a complete failure.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's always tough with new IP. I
yeah,
mean, even for a company like I mean, even if Sony, Microsoft, Konami, anybody are like, hey, here's something new, people are like, new. I mean,
yeah,
that's why we get the same Call of Duty from Activision every year because they're afraid, and even though
yeah,
the law of diminishing returns is kicking Call of Duty in the butt, uh, they're still selling 12 million copies of the game, so
yeah.
uh, you know
Um,
they're making money hand over
but
fist.
other franchises, their Ace Attorney series that still does pretty well if they want to release any more of those. Um,
Yeah, maybe
Final Fight,
if
Ghosts and
Capcom had brought out
Goblins.
the other Ace Attorney Investigations game, they would have made at least a couple dollars because I would have bought it because I really
Yeah.
liked the first Investigations game.
Yeah, Ghosts and Goblins is probably another franchise they could bring back.
Yeah,
They did at PS2 for the PS2 they did the Maximo games. They did Maximo Ghosts and Glory, and then Maximo versus Sin or something like that. Those are fun. I don't think they did well enough that Capcom felt comfortable continuing the
yeah.
franchise. But
Nestor also brings up an interesting point, which is one of the problems that Rare has is a lot of the original talent, like the Stamper brothers and David Doak and all the others, are not there anymore. He
mhm,
points out that Keiji Inafune is no longer there. He's the Mega Man
yeah,
guy. Shinji Mikami, Resident Evil, no longer there. Uh, Yoshika Okamoto, I'm not sure who that is. Hideki Kamiya, he's over at Platinum now. Um, yeah, I'm sure there are still good people. I mean, I love Monster Hunter, so there's still people doing good stuff over there.
Yeah, they still make really good games, so they still have some good talent there. It's
Yeah,
just
I'm sure Resident Evil Revelations 2 will be awesome. Too bad I don't get to play it. Grumble, grumble.
yeah.
Oh, that is so frustrating. Anyway, let us move on to another topic,
All right.
which is Lucky Chloe in Tekken 7. So Tekken 7 has been announced for arcades. I'm sure it will come to consoles too, but for now we only know it's coming to arcades. There are about 20 characters in the game, and one of the announced characters is Lucky Chloe, who is some girl cosplaying as Peach
In the cat suit.
in her cat costume from Super Mario 3D World, which is a joke I made on Twitter, which actually ended up on I Can Has Cheeseburger, and some people took me bloody serious about it.
Nice. I was hoping somebody would take that seriously because I love that image. You know, because you had Peach, and then you had Bayonetta as Peach, and then you had Peach in her cat suit, and then you had Lucky Chloe on there. And you know, very very clever and
I said something about it's so nice to see Nintendo, you know, so open with its characters and willing to have fun. Some people actually took me deadly. They're like, that's not a character cosplaying as Peach cosplays it. Like, dude, I know it's a joke. For crying out loud. Are you new here on I Can Has Cheeseburger? Anyway.
Yeah.
That's the internet for you. Always assume the other person's stupid or ignorant.
Lester says Yoshiki Okamoto created the Final Fight series.
Oh, okay. And apparently Street Fighter 2. So, okay. Well, they seem to be doing okay with the Street Fighter franchise at least.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, Lucky Chloe is she's kind of like one of those really annoying, bubbly Japanese idols who speak in kind of a weird, slangy English that it's clear that they don't really understand English at all, but they know enough words to string it together fun phrases, and they do this all the time. So she's a girl wearing a pink cat ears and has a pink ruffly skirt, and she has little cat paw gloves on, which actually it looks like it's a long-sleeved shrug with imagine footy pajamas, only built like a shrug that ends in cat paw gloves, and she does a lot of yay, yay, wee. You know, I almost want to get Tekken 7 and get really good at this character just to piss people off. Personally, I think she's hilarious. I think it's just another example of the wonderful variety that a lot of Tekken characters bring to the game. I think she's really cool. Keep in mind that this is also a game with a friggin' boxing kangaroo. Okay, and I think there's a panda
bear.
One of them. There's a guy with a wolf.
I think he's a grizzly bear, but the panda bear is an alternative skin.
Yeah. So anyway, there are some people who don't like Lucky Chloe, and said so on NeoGAF. And we're
great conversations there.
Yes, to be fair, there's a lot of cool stuff on NeoGAF, yes, but they're very passions run wild on NeoGAF. And let's see, Katsuhiro Harada, who's the Tekken 7's director, didn't take some of that criticism too well, and said, "Okay, fine. You know, you don't get Lucky Chloe in America. We'll replace her with a skin-headed, muscle-bound guy with machine guns who will look like Chuck Norris." And a lot of people were like, no, it's cool. We just won't play as her. Please, you know, we just think she's stupid, but you should. Some people like her. And he's like, no, calm down. You know, East and West are very different. So, you know, we'll have Chloe, and you can have Muscle and Skinhead Man, who's an MMA fighter with guns. And when I first saw this, I'm like, this guy is totally trolling.
That's what it sounds like. Yes, it sounds like
Michael Murray, who is apparently one of the developers on the game, tweeted, "It's amusing how many people are taking Harada's trolling about Chloe seriously. Lol." So yeah, I think there's been no announcement of Tekken 7 hitting Western Shores anyway, and I'm sure it will. Maybe not arcades, because arcades aren't really that big anymore, but I'm sure Lucky Chloe will be part of the game if and when it comes over here. I think Harada's just being Harada on the criticism. God, that's terrible. What's your opinion of Lucky Chloe? Do you think she's annoying? It's like, oh god, that was a bad idea, or do you think she's funny? Did you watch the trailer?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you should. It's hilarious.
Where can I find this trailer? It's
on the internets.
On the internets. But I'm not a big fighter. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Let's watch this for just a second, and I'll describe it. Okay, so here's Tekken. This logo, Lucky Chloe. Oh, she's double hand waves, and she's doing this whole thing. Oh, she looks like a pretty solid fighter.
Almost got a capoeira type of fighting going on with her.
Yeah, she did this kind of spin thing where she kind of spun the guy with her feet, while doing a handstand. She's definitely doing the whole pop idol thing. Very annoying voice and movements and everything, but I don't know. Tekken isn't really the series to play the conservative role in designing characters. They design a lot of outlandish characters, and
which is funny because Tekken is such a technical damn fighter. It kind of amazes me that they go so outlandish with a lot of the characters, because the way that fighting engine works is so damn technical. You almost think, oh, this is a serious fighting game. We've got to take these characters a lot more seriously, but I think that juxtaposition of serious technical fighting game and some goofy outlandish characters is really a lot of Tekken's charm.
Yeah, and Lucky Chloe does not seem outside of the norm for the Tekken series. Sure, she's annoying, but her costume is designed in such a way that she plays off of the Japanese pop idol. So that's a costume that is at least recognizable to the pop culture community in Japan and even outside of Japan. The cat thing, I can't really say anything about because I'm not aware of the cat theme itself as part of pop idols and stuff.
Everyone loves cat girls.
But cat girls, Japan has anime and stuff. There's a lot of anime with cat themed characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's out of the norm, and she looks like a pretty solid fighter if you can get past the annoying voice and
if you find her annoying, pick another fighter and beat the hell out of her.
Yeah. But then you would get a lot of people complaining that Tekken 7 encourages violence against women. I don't think she's as bad as people make her.
And I honestly don't think most of the people on NeoGAF really take her out of the game. I think people are like, that I don't like that character, but it's the internet, so a lot of people feel they need to really emphasize it. I hate, and I must see how.
But there's apparently there were some complaints that it was she's overly sexualized.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. She's nowhere near Ivy from Soul Calibur.
No,
Ivy.
She would feel out of place in Soul Calibur or Dead or Alive.
Yeah, but I think Ivy is the poster child for over sexualized fighter characters. Because she has giant breasts, they're barely covered. It's a surprise and a wonder that they even stay covered as much as they are.
Ivy doesn't bother me that much because
Yeah,
it's like part of her character.
yeah.
Um,
And
the ones
Ivy is
that
actually, to be honest, Ivy is actually one of my favorite characters to play because I like her moveset. The whole whip is a lot of fun to
the
play.
chain whip's cool.
But
I also do like the design of several of her costumes, even though they get a little thongy and maybe not
yeah.
as supportive as they should be up top.
Hmm.
A lot of times they have really interesting designs and cuts to them. And I do like the fact that she's a... Oh, man, my knuckles are messed up. Um, Look at that. That's terrible. I was...
Yeah.
You see, my knuckles
Yeah.
are all kind of... I was doing crawls across a AstroTurf carpet thing with weights in my hands, and I have gloves, but they only come up to here, so it doesn't help for this part of the finger. Anyway, what the hell was I saying? Oh,
Talking about Ivy's costume.
the ones that, but Ivy as a character feels like that's part of her character.
Hmm.
She's almost, she's well, older than 22. She's a mature woman who's almost, dominatrix, and
Hmm.
not exactly dominatrix, but at least maybe domineering.
Yeah.
She works as a character for me. I do think she's a bit over-designed in a lot of places, but
Hmm.
the ones that bother me are like Taki, I think, the ninja, who wears the
Uh,
painted-on leotard that I think just looks absolutely... It's distractingly awful to me.
hmm.
I mean, first of all, her boobs are built like torpedoes or watermelons, which is unsightly. And two, her outfit doesn't make any damned sense.
No.
Unless it's supposed to be body paint, which I don't think so. And then the other one is
Um,
Sophia, I think.
yeah. The girl with the sword and shield from
Yeah, who
Infamous.
wears basically like the thinnest silken sheet thingy over her shoulder. They actually got a model to wear something very similar to her costume, and she immediately fell out of it. And it's like, yeah, this would not work at all.
Well, when I remember the Soul Edge
Mhm.
with her character, and she was actually in a more Xena style outfit, and in the original.
Yeah, it
Which,
depends on the game. So, some costumes have been
yeah,
better than others.
but
But
yeah.
I mean, it's not like, oh, the game's horrible. People who played are bad. No, no, no. I just look at the design and go, well, that's a dumb design. Yeah,
It's
typically, if I look
overall,
at something like that, just doesn't work. Yeah, that's what bothers me. So
yeah.
anyway, moving on to I guess our last topic. What is our last topic? Oh yes, Papers, Please. Game which I still haven't played, although I would like to
I've played
take a
some
look at
of
it at
it.
some
Yeah,
point. Um, so it's the game where you play
you
a
play
guy
as
who admits people into some country, examines their passports and makes sure they have all their entry visas in order,
yeah.
stamps them yes or no.
You're basically
Apparently
a
that's an
border
entertaining
guard.
game.
Um,
Um,
it's a very well designed game, and
yeah. Well, one of the things you can do in the game is do a full body scan of the person trying to get in the country to make sure they don't have plastic explosives taped to their butt. And what this does is it pulls up a front and back picture of the character nude. It's hand drawn. It's rendered and there's
plated.
genitalia and nipples and stuff, but it's certainly not done in any tittillating manner unless you have specific tastes.
Yeah.
Um, but there is if that bothers you, there is a checkbox in the settings that allows you to turn off nudity. Well, apparently Apple saw that option and said, "Oh, no porn," and denied the game on Apple Store, I think. Was that where it was?
Yeah, it's the iTunes actually.
iPad and such. Lucas Pope, the developer, says the iPad version has no full nudity option for the search scanner photos. Apple rejected that build for containing pornographic content. Apple later went back on that, and I'm looking at the wrong article. And Lucas Pope says he submitted the build. The wording of their rejection made me think that even showing immigrants in their underwear would be a violation, so I asked directly, is it enough to disable the option for full nudity? This would leave the models visible in their underwear. That got the response, paraphrasing, we don't pre-approve apps, but that sounds like it would pass. They sent it in, got rejected, and they heard from Apple later saying that this was just a mistake, resubmit it with the UI stuff back in place, and it'll be fine, and apparently it is. So it's interesting if there was actually a misunderstanding, or if Apple just saw the negative feedback from fans like myself who sent them links to the dictionary of pornographic, and said you might want to refamiliarize yourself what pornographic actually means, guys.
I think a lot of it probably has to do with the bad press that Apple was getting over this, because this is a critically acclaimed game, and the fact that you're rejecting it over something so so mundane yet kind of the core of the app. It's just the game is about the buildup of the police state. When it comes to allowing people across the border, you start out with just a simple passport check, and then you move into an actual visa and various other papers and everything, and it's just as the game progresses, you're checking more and more things, and eventually it culminates into this full body scanner, and it just shows the progress of a surveillance state, and the fact that Apple rejected that just kind of shows that they were what's the phrase here, out of touch with what's currently acceptable and loved by the gaming community. So I think the fact that they got a lot of bad press out of this probably helped rush things and get Apple to move faster in approving the app as it's meant to be played.
Yeah.
But it also shows just how fickle and annoying the Apple App Store is. Just kind of as a another example of this, I was speaking with a developer on Twitter. He made a game called The Hunted. It's a top-down arena shooter, and he submitted some updates for the game to the Apple App Store, and the updates and the game got rejected. And it got rejected because in his preview video it showed a gun. And I was just I heard this from him, or I read this on Twitter, and I was like, does Apple not know that they have tons and tons of games with guns in them already on their App Store? I started looking up games, their top chart, and going through them, and I'm like, okay, here's GTA 5, gun, 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 gun. There was a gun in almost every picture they had. Okay, here's Call of Duty Zombies, gun, 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 gun. Okay, here's Gameloft's some game from Gameloft. Gun, 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 gun. I was like, if I were submitting this game to Apple, I would have sent a link to every single one of these games, sent back a link to all of these games, and said, okay, when you remove these games from your App Store, I will adjust my game in submission, and remove guns from it. And until then, my game is staying the way it is.
I'd honestly just like some consistency. Now that, benefit of the doubt, this could have just been a sleepy person hitting the wrong button and going, oh, nudity, porno, reject. That stuff, it does happen. But, I mean, if they had rules that said, no naughty bits in the games, well, fine. They can have whatever content, they can exclude whatever content from their store that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But, they cited, no porn. It's like, this isn't in any nudity in and of itself is not pornography.
Yeah.
Period.
Well, and this isn't the first time things like this have happened. Like Project Gutenberg had one of their original reading apps rejected because you could access the Kama Sutra through it, and the Kama Sutra came up as a book you could download, and it's like,
I hear the sexy bits is only like one chapter out of the entire book.
I don't know.
I haven't read it either.
But and other things like that, things like that have happened for other apps as well. But it's just like, I can access porn through the Safari browser. Are you going to remove the Safari browser? Rejecting an app because of things people can access through them is kind of the dumbest thing in the world. If it's not part of the app itself, don't reject the app. Some content that's just out there that you can access through it. There's no reason to reject it.
Well, I mean, unless the app is advertising itself specifically for doing something like, browse porn, the porn browser. It's like, okay, no. It's like, what? You can get things other than porn through browse porn, the porn browser. It's like,
yeah. But something like that I could understand. But Project Gutenberg, where the vast majority of the books you're going to download are things like Mark Twain and Arthur Conan Doyle and H.G. Wells, things like that. That's the vast majority of what you're going to be downloading. Very few people are going to be trying to find the most Kama Sutra and books like that, which there really aren't a lot of in the public domain. But
I think Apple is. I don't know. Matthew just pointed out that Apple's more strict with games than other media, but I've seen them pull similar stuff with comics. I remember. I can't remember what comic it was, but there was a comic that was rejected for some sex scene in it. And they're like, no porn.
Yeah.
It's like,
but they do allow things like
this, guys.
But they do allow things like 50 Shades of Grey in their in the bookstore, and they allow rated R movies on their through the movie store and stuff like that. So it just seems odd that they would take a more strict a stricter stance on when it comes to video games.
Well, Apple, I guess
Target
and Kmart Australia really only give a damn about the content and when someone starts complaining about it. They were totally happy selling GTA 5 for 14 months until someone said, "I don't like it." And they're like, "Oh, well, okay, we'll take it off the shelves," because I think everyone who was going to buy it bought it already anyway. So
yeah. So but again, this is absolutely nothing new for Apple. They've been pulling this kind of crap since the beginning with the App Store.
Yeah.
And they will continue to pull crap like this for the foreseeable future. I don't think they will ever release come to a consistent guidelines for approving apps like this. It'll never happen, especially because it all comes down to what reviewer you get.
Well, maybe
reviewer will reject.
Lucas Pope should have resubmitted his game with all the characters wearing Apple logo pasties over their naughty bits.
Yeah, I think it was Kotaku that did that for their lead image. Was they when they did this when they wrote their article, I think that was their lead image, was one of the full body scanners with little Apple logos on the covering up the naughty bits.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure, I am trying to be original, and I end up ripping off Kotaku.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephen Totillo. Oh well. RK fan says censorship is stupid. As long as there's information about the content to the customer, then why remove it? The buyer will know what he or she's getting into. It's their choice at that point. Yeah, generally I agree with that stance. I'm always, give the customer the information they need to make an informed purchasing decision.
Yeah, but
Well,
all of this
that
tossed out
said,
the window
Apple
when
again
for the
does have the right
children.
to sell or not sell whatever the hell it wants. Again, I would just like it to be a bit more consistent here.
Yeah, but but all that stuff goes out the window when For the Children is bandied about, and that's really what this is. The developer I was telling you about earlier, F5 Games, they mentioned that Apple said that they try to keep the App Store 4 plus, like rated 4 plus, just as you browse the App Store. But how does a gun not count as 4 plus? If the game itself is not 4 plus, why should the preview images not be 4 plus? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if your game is a shooter, how can you have decent screenshots and a video without actually showing the shooting action? It's like how do you show the people the game without actually showing them the game? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But again, they're completely inconsistent about it all.
Yeah, I think that's the big, for me. That's the biggest problem is the inconsistency. So, anyway, I think that is our show for this evening and also for 2014.
All right.
So, Matthew says because parents are stupid. Careful, Matthew. Zachary is correct.
I'm a well-informed parent. So
I have parents, and I know my mom doesn't care what Ed, whatever his name is at MSNBC. Okay, that's Ed Schultz. Ed Schultz. Look up my video. Ed Schultz insults my mother or something like that. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I forget, but I do remember it where you called your mom and asked her what she thought about what
I don't give a shit. Oh, if you want another Christmassy video that Zachary reminded me of with the For the Children thing, it's called You Might Be an Asshole. And it's a whole list of reasons why you might be an asshole. And if you've ever used the phrase for the children, you might be an asshole. So that's one of my favorite videos. I really like that one. Great holiday themed video. So check that one out. Before we sign off, got to recommend another game. This one is Cursed Mountain, which you could probably find for under $10 because it didn't sell very well. Why is it broken on the side like this? Because it dropped a TV on it. That TV. It actually came out pretty well. But this is not great, but it's an interesting game. It's kind of a horror game where you hike up a mountain in Tibet or somewhere looking for your lost brother and try not to hallucinate. Or are you? Are there really ghosts? It's kind of an interesting game because you're constantly walking. Where do I go? Up. You're constantly going up the mountain. There's a real good sense of climbing a mountain in this game, so it's worth a look, I think. Not the greatest game experience you will ever have. There's a point where you have to use the remote to waggle some magical juju thing above your head, and I was like doing this for 10 solid minutes. I'm like, oh, my arm, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get past this point? I'm still not sure what I did wrong. Stupid motion controls. Anyway, closing the show, yes. Andrew Eisen here, E-I-S-E-N is the last name. Find my videos on YouTube. At Andrew Eisen is Twitter. Andrew Eisen YouTube is Facebook. And yeah, that's it. I'll probably have one video before I go on vacation. I don't know. I have a lot of videos planned. I have a lot of stuff I'm working on. I really should probably work on one thing, finish it, post it, then move on to the next. But I'm working on like several, mainly because I'm going to see my sister in a week. And I've got all these cool ideas for stuff we can do together, so I'm organizing all this crap and getting almost nothing done. But hopefully I'll have something tomorrow night and I have an incredibly sick sense of humor. So, yeah, viewer discretion advised for the next one. You probably don't want to watch it. Like, some things once seen cannot be unseen. Anyway, that's it for me. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night, and check out DK_gaming on Twitter. That's my game development handle there for DivineKnightGaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, you can find that on OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com. And random musings and other interesting things about game stuff is at RandomTower.com. So check out those places.
Okay. You've been listening to episode 125 of Super Podcast Action Committee. We will be back next year, probably Saturday, January 10th, 2015. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, you can send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes and like us on Facebook. In the meantime, Merry Christmas Eve, 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 Eve. And we'll see you next year. So have a good one, folks. Take care.
See ya. Happy holidays.